County Executive Pat Ryan, who's going to be the MC for today's event.
Good afternoon, everyone. Forgive me 1 second here. Does that work? Everybody after me is going to be shorter, so I don't know if we need to bring it down. All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's obviously a beautiful, almost spring day. Well, no, it is a spring day. It is a spring day, but unfortunately we're here not to celebrate spring, but to deal with a really tough moment, and a moment that's been building on our community, as we all know, for a long time. But I think we all felt it was absolutely essential as community leaders from across the city and the county to stand here today. And so I'll be introducing several other leaders, and I also want to welcome many that are here today. Starting with our mayor of the city of Kingston, Mayor Steve Noble, our county sheriff Juan Figueroa, district attorney Dave Clegg, Kingston School District Superintendent Paul Padalino, Alderwoman Rita Worthington. I saw Alderman Doug Coop as well. Ulster County Comptroller March Gallagher, Ulster County Legislator representing this area, Abe Ushatel. Pastor Schuyler is on her way and due to be here any moment, and she'll be speaking a little bit later, so we'll be ready there. Also like to welcome Kingston Police Chief Tinty. Thank you, Chief. Ulster County Human Rights Commissioner Tyrone Wilson, Ulster County Youth Bureau Director Nina Dawson. I see also other folks that I appreciate joining. Carl Brown from our Human Rights Commission, Dan Whalen, another one of my high school classmates from the Boys and Girls Club, Kingston High School class of 2000, representing here today. And I think I got folks, and I apologize if I didn't get everybody, but thank you for, I see Michelle Hirsch as well, I'm sorry. I can't see anybody behind the masks here. Thanks, Michelle. So again, this was something that we all, speaking after the events, especially this last weekend, felt was essential to stand up as a community. And I do want to, before I talk about what's happening in our community, I do just want to take a brief moment and just recognize what happened late last night. And this morning, many of us woke up to the news of yet another mass shooting halfway across the country in Colorado. We now are seeing more details of 10 lives lost there, including a tremendously brave law enforcement officer who charged towards the gunman and lost his life, saving many others. We saw more mass shootings last week in Atlanta, and I think we all worry that as we come out of the pandemic across the country, that we're at tremendous risk of reverting back or even getting worse in terms of the cycle of gun violence in our country. And right here in our own city, where so many of us grew up and love and serve, and our county, we are seeing that play out and ramp up. And more than anything, I think we are all here to stand together, especially in the wake of several more tragic incidents of gun violence. And we all are here to say, not only say, but to act, but to start by saying that enough is enough with this cycle of gun violence and violence in our city and in our county. And something has to fundamentally change, and it is on all of us as leaders and members of this community to take those actions and recognize that what we've been doing at least has not been working enough, and that we have to change our behavior and step up our game. I mean, I think we all remember a snowy, I believe it was a Friday night or a Thursday night on December 17th, when our community lost and is still mourning the loss of a 12-year-old girl and her 10-year-old brother who had to witness that horrific incident of gun violence. Since then, and coming into this year, after losing DeGeneres, our city and our county have had 6 more incidents of gun violence. We've lost 2 already this year, really just in the last week. and I know many here and our school leaders, I'm sure, will talk about this, can't move past the fact that so many of these people are kids. Raymond Robinson, who I didn't have the pleasure of knowing, but I know many of you knew, 19 years old, about to graduate from Kingston High School, an athlete, a scholar, a student, described by Kingston High School principal as smart, a great guy, deeply respectful, a hard worker, and a good athlete. That was Thursday. Then Saturday night in New Paltz, another shooting. Then Sunday afternoon in Kingston, another fatal shooting, a homicide. I know you all know this, but I just think it's important that we understand the devastation and the frequency and the level of violence that is now plaguing our community. And so I think we are all here, number one, as I said, to recognize this is unacceptable, that we need to take urgent action to address this cycle of gun violence. We're going to hear from many of our community leaders. Each of us has a role to play. I think the important first step here is that we all have to work together and each do our part. And that's not just elected officials, but that's all of our community. I want to make clear to the residents of the county, who I know are feeling increasingly unsafe, that we cannot and we will not tolerate this violence in our city and our county. And each of us as elected officials, our most solemn responsibility is to protect the safety of our residents. And we have not done enough to do that, and we are going to step up our game, and especially to our young people that fear being pulled into this violence. We have a few initiatives that we're going to announce today specifically to ensure that you can continue to go to school, come out of this pandemic, and hopefully see your friends and have some peace and safety and joy as we come into this spring and summer. So I'm going to announce two initiatives. I know the mayor and others have other pieces that they're going to add, but please consider this a first step and a promise that we have more work to do, but that we're starting that work now. Two initiatives that I want to hit on before I introduce the mayor. Number one, Ulster County, for the second year in a row, is participating in a statewide program specifically targeted at this problem, the GIVE program, which is gun-involved violence elimination. That is a statewide program that 17 counties across the state outside of New York City are participating in. We are one, and this is our second year. We actually last night received notice that we'll be receiving $240,000 from the state to ramp up our efforts specifically focused on reducing gun violence and saving lives in communities with high rates of firearm-related violence, which unfortunately Ulster County is among that list, and we of course know that. That funding will support 4 different agencies throughout the county: Kingston Police Department, our Ulster County Sheriff's Department, our district attorney, and our probation department, all working together using data-driven approaches to address gun violence. The second program, which our Human Rights Commissioner will talk more about, that we're really excited about, is a very innovative one, specifically focused on addressing the risk and the dangers and the fears of our young people. So Lights On Kingston is a new program that we'll be launching in June, born out of the creative genius of Tyrone Wilson and many others, speaking about, in the wake of DeGeneres' death, that we needed to do more to create a safe place for our young people. And in partnership with Mayor Noble in the city and Superintendent Padalino in the school district, we're going to be emulating a highly successful program from Newark, New Jersey, and several other major cities around the country, where we'll open up our school at the times of greatest risk and provide a safe haven for our young people. So we'll hear more of those details as well. But before I hand it over to the mayor, I just want to thank each of you for being here. And I want to put it back on each of us that if you have an idea, please come forward with it, because we know we've been all working hard, but we're still not doing enough. And so, let those guys go by. We're still not doing enough, and it's not working, and we need to be honest about that and take different action. So thank you for being here. It's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Noble, another proud member of the Kingston High School class of 2000. I know he loves when I harken back to that time. But Mayor Noble, thank you for being here, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, County Executive Ryan, and I echo your words. None of us want to be here today. We wish we didn't have the gun violence that exists in our community, but as we know, this is something that we can't wish away. We realize that this is a crisis that's not only impacting Kingston, but across our country, and I stand with the County Executive and all of you to say that this is not going to continue here in Kingston, and we are going to do everything that we can within our power to work with the community. And the community is where we have been putting our efforts to be able to bridge the divides that exist between our community members and law enforcement, the clergy, our elected officials, all of our partners in the state, to recognize that this is a crisis. Just like the housing crisis that we have in our community, COVID has unveiled so many wounds for so many people and have exacerbated so many different issues, one of which we know is the increase in drug use, it's the increase in violent tendencies, it's the feeling of being disconnected from one another. And so for all of us, gun violence is what though is appearing in our face right here in Kingston right now. We are seeing our young children being impacted by gun violence. We're seeing our young adults lose their lives because they had access to an illegal firearm. This is something that, as an elected official, keeps me up at night, and I know it does all of you. And when we hear the rhetoric that exists, it so quickly gets to the blame game. Everyone wants to blame someone. Blaming someone is easy to do. What's hard to do is to get together as a community to say, we have to do things differently. We have to stand together. We have to put the politics aside. We have to put the disagreements aside, and we have to be able to work together to create new initiatives. And so the Lights on Kingston initiative is a prime example of how we can work together as a community to come up with new programs, new initiatives, to be able to make sure that our youth have a safe place to go on a Friday night, to be able to make sure that our youth are never turned away from an after-school program because it doesn't have enough capacity or that it doesn't have enough resources. We need to make sure that there are enough jobs in our community, and I want to take a moment to just say that, you know, it's a big lift, but the county executive and his team are working really closely with our team to make sure that we're focusing on all aspects of what make people turn to illegal drugs and to guns and to violence. It's because they don't have good housing. It's because they don't have access to jobs. They don't have a foundation where they feel comfortable in. And so we have to tackle all of those. It can't just be putting more cops on the street. It can be a part of the solution, and we want to make sure that our neighborhoods feel safe, but we have to be able to work across all aspects of our community. And so with that, we just need to take a moment. And we need to take a moment to recognize that we all have our own part that we can play. And it's not going to be easy work. And we are going to be frustrated at times. And we are going to struggle because we don't have the answers. We won't always have the answers. And when we do, you may not like the answer. And we may try to take a chance to try something new, and it may not work. Many of you know that last summer we had an increase in violence in our community, and so we called on our partners at the state police and the county sheriff's department to bring in more patrols in Kingston. And we were able to have some success in getting drugs and guns off the street. But what we didn't realize was that we were going to have a whole host of other repercussions, was that we were going to further divide our residents from us as community leaders and law enforcement. And so we have to take a different approach. and the chief and I are dedicated to taking a community-driven approach, a new emphasis on community-related policing, where we're out of our cars, when we're on the street, and we're working together, hand in hand with all of you, our community stakeholders, to make sure that we are able to continue to police our community in a way that is just, a way that is respectful, and a way that is actually getting the job done, so that we can actually have a reduction in illegal gun use, so that we can have a reduction in opioid overdoses. And we can only do that, though, if we try these new approaches. And so before I end, I do want to mention